Hi everyone, it's svgcoop.com and we are back working on another album. This is our Disney themed pop-up album, but this is going to be our 12 by 12 size. So we're going to start out with, you're going to need to get some chipboard and you're going to need to cut two squares that are 13 by 13. You're going to need a 2" by 13" rectangle, and then you're going to need a 1 7/8 inch by 11.5" rectangle. Now, I bought my chipboard from Dick Blick. You can get it from multiple places, or you can use cereal boxes if you want to. If you're going to use something like a cereal box, you probably want to do like a double layer, glue it together real good so that it's a little bit thicker, because this is going to be kind of a heavy book. So I'm actually using some pretty heavy chipboard here. But the other thing is, normally when we do mini albums, I design SVG files that you can use to cut out and everything kind of places itself. But because we're doing such a big cover, we're going to have to do some measuring and cutting ourselves. So I just wanted to kind of give you that heads up before we get started. All right, so I'm just going to put my chipboard aside for the moment, and we're going to start with the cover pieces. So let's see. I'm using some Echo Park Magical Adventure paper, and what I want to do is I have two 12 by 12 sheets in the star pattern, two 12 by 12 sheets in this like banner pattern, and then I took one 12 by 12 sheet of the film strip and I cut it in half. So it's each one is 6 inches by 12 inches. But in order to make sure that they were really, really the same size, because you know when you cut it yourself, they don't always end up exactly the same, I combined them, I put them together like this, and I made sure that they were exact, and then I just trimmed it to make sure that they matched exactly. So you probably want to try to do that as well. Okay, so I want my cover to have the stars on it, and I'm going to put the banners on the inside. So we'll start with the outside piece of the cover. And what we need to do is we're going to use a scoring board. And I have, Echo Park has like a strip along the bottom that has, you know, like information on the paper. We can leave that in this case because we're going to be covering it up, so you don't have to worry about cutting that off. All right, so the first piece we're going to do with the Echo Park label on the bottom, you know, if you have your 12 by 12 paper and you don't have that, you don't have to worry about that. But we're going to score it at 1/2 inch along the left-hand side. And then I'm going to rotate it just once, and I'm going to do another 1/2 inch on the left-hand side. Okay, and then the second piece, I'm going to line it up the same way, only this time I'm going to go in 1/2 inch on the right-hand side, and I'm going to rotate it again, and this time I can go 1/2 inch from the left-hand side because it's really the top that we're getting here. Okay, so now we have those scored. I'm just going to put this aside for a second. Then what we're going to do is, let's see, I'm going to zoom in here. I'm not sure if you can really see it, but we have score lines. Our score lines are meeting in this corner. So I have a little square here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my ruler, and I want to meet up with the corner of where the score lines meet, and I'm just going to cut a diagonal line off. We just want to get rid of that corner, like that. And I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. And the corner is, of course, on the other side here. So I'm just going to, again, line my ruler up and just cut off that corner. Okay. Okay. Then we're going to score, or we're going to fold it on the score lines. So you can just fold it in one. I'm just going to use my bone folder here to Make sure it folds nicely. And these are what we call our glue tabs. If you've been watching our videos on the other pop-up cards, you're pretty familiar with what the glue tabs are. We'll just fold that one, and we'll fold this one. And we just move them back out. Okay. Okay, so once we have those folded, we're going to sort of, normally we wrap our chipboard like a present, but this time because the paper doesn't come as 13 by 13, we're going to have to sort of wrap it piece by piece. So I'm going to take my first one, and what we're going to do is one of them we're going to put on the left side, and then the other piece we're going to put on the right side. So the one that's going on the left side, we want our tab to be on the left side. So our glue tab will be on the left and on the back. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to flip this over. We're going to use some score tape. I'm going to go along the glue tabs. And you can use score tape. You can use glue if you have the patience to hold it to make sure that it dries well. I don't have that kind of patience, so I'm just going to go around the edge here. And I'm just going to put one across the center. Okay. And if you give us all a nice little rub, I'm going to take it off. It'll work out all right. So I'm going to take off the middle pieces first. Okay. And what I want to do is I want this to show up this way. So I'm going to flip it over, and I need to get my chipboard right up in the corner here. And I need it to be as straight as I can along both lines, my score lines. Okay, and then I'm just going to peel this off. Problem with not having longer nails. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to fold these up. Usually I kind of start in the middle and I work my way out. Seems to work out a little better that way. Okay, so that's our one side, and then we need to do our second side. So again, I'm just going to flip it over. Oops. Get my score tape on here. Okay. Okay, and again, I'm going to take it off of the middle piece. Okay. And we get our chipboard piece. And I'm just going to line it up again right in that corner. Try and get it as straight, close to the score line as I can. Okay. And we'll fold that over like that. Okay, so we now have, if this was our book turned inside out, where the inside would be underneath, this is what our cover would start to look like. So then what we're going to do is we're going to flip them over. And what we need to do is we're going to put our second pattern, which is going to be, in my case, it's going to be the one with these on it. So I'm going to put some score tape around the edges. Okay. I know this part is super exciting to watch, but it's a little different than what we normally do, so. And again, we don't have to worry about covering the line on the end because it's going to get covered up. So I'm just going to start at this top corner, and I want to get it lined up as closely as I can to the corner and as straight as I can. I'm going to give that a good rub. Okay, and then we're just going to do the same with the other side. Okay, and I'll put this off. That. Okay, and again, now this time I'm going to be matching up to my other corner here. And I'm just going to get that lined up as best I can. Okay. Okay, so now this would be what would look like the inside of our cover. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to put these aside for a minute. I'm going to get our scoring tool out again. And we're going to take our two half pieces here. And what we want to do is we're going to score it at 3 inches longwise here, vertically. And then for the first one, we're going to score a 1/2 inch on the left-hand side. Okay. And the next one, I'm going to make sure I put these the same way. I'm going to score it at 3 inches. And this time I'm going to score a 1/2 inch from the right side. So 11.5 inches. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to be putting these along the bottom of our pages. So this is our inside, right? And, nope, I'm sorry. This is my inside, this is my outside. It doesn't really matter as long as you're happy with whatever design is on the outside. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to fold this in half on the score line. And we're going to notch out a piece of our side that's scored on the side. So for this one, I'm just going to fold this. And what we're going to do, this one's going to go on my right side. So let me just zoom in here a little bit for you. So what I want to do is I have it folded in half, and then I have my score line, in this case, is over on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler. Actually, I'll do it this way, I guess. I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm just going to line it up with my score line here. Let me just put this backwards the other way. I'm going to line it up with my score line, and I want to make sure I'm against this score line. And I'm going to be cutting out this bottom rectangle. So I put a slice that way, and then I'm just going to diagonally go from where the score lines meet and just cut that off like that. So you end up with a piece cut like this, okay? Because what we want to do is we want to have a glue tab on the side here. So I'm also just going to take from this corner, I'm just going to cut a little corner off that way. Okay, so now when we glue this on, we're going to have this little glue tab on the side, and then this is going to fold over. So let's do that to the other side as well. So let's put that one aside for a second. Now this one has the score line on the left side. So I'll fold that back and forth, and I'm going to fold this in half. Okay, so again, I'm going to line up my ruler. This time, just because I'm a righty, I'm going to kind of get this on this side, make sure it's lined up. And I'm going to cut along that line. And then I'm going to cut a diagonal from where the score lines meet, so we can make another glue tab here. So again, just cut off a little piece that looks like that. And then I'm going to take this other corner, and I'm just going to cut a little piece off there. Okay. All right, so now this is going to be my front of my book. So this part is going to be the inside of our book. So it's going to look like this, right? So what we want to do is we're going to take this first one, put some score tape around it. And go on the top here. And then I'm going to put some score tape on my glue tab section here. Alright, so we'll take the score tape off. And what I want to do is I want to line this up. Let's see if I can, maybe if we zoom in here, it'll be a little better. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to line this up into the seam of my piece. But I want to make sure that my score line lines up with the edge of the paper. Okay, so I'm just going to squeeze that together like that. And then I'm going to take this score tape off of here. And I'm just going to fold over my tab. Let's see. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up a little bit. I'm going to stick my tab inside. and then put this on the outside. Okay, so let me go back out here. Okay, so I tucked my tab inside here, and so now when we look at the front, this is what the front will look like. Okay, then we're going to do that for the other side. So let's get some score tape, and we'll put it along the top and the bottom. And then along the glue tab. Okay, so this time I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to only pull the tape off of the part where I have the tab. So here's my tab. So I'm just pulling off this tape. So I'm going to still line this up into the crease of my piece. And I want to make sure that my score line lines up with the edge of my paper. Give that a good little press. I'll flip it over. I can pull the tape off of the tab and fold this over first. And I'll take this one off and just fold it up. Okay, so now this is the front and back of my book. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the piece along the center that's going to make for the binding area. So what I did was, again, we had to cut this ourselves. This is 8 inches wide by 12 inches long, and I cut 3 of them. And I ran them through my Xyron, and I gave it a good rub to make sure that the glue stuck pretty nicely. You can use glue if you want to. You can use pattern paper if you want to. I'm going to go with black. I also cut some pattern paper a little bit smaller, so I may put that over it. But for right now, I'm going to start with black. So I'm just going to peel off the clear paper from here and off your sheets. And I'm going to take my first one off. And it basically just turns the paper into one big sticker. I'm going to put there. And I'll pull off a second sheet. Now what I want to do is I'm going to get this kind of lined up on my board here so it's straight. Okay, straight. Oops. Okay, and what I want to do is I'm just going to overlap this just a little bit, enough that it will hold, but that it's lined up pretty straight. So I'm going about 1/2 inch. That's all. Okay, so when you flip it over, you can see it's stuck together, okay? So then what we want to do is you're going to grab your piece that is 2 inches by 13 inches. And I'm going to sort of center this inside of this piece. And if I have this pretty straight, you know, you just want to eyeball it, but you want to try and get as close to straight as you can. And in the center. So I'm just gonna, oops, I'm gonna plop that down like that. Then I'm going to take my cover pages. Now this one, I want this on the outside. So I'm going to use, let's see, I have another piece of chipboard here. Here it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a scrapped piece of chipboard, and I just want to sort of, I at least want it as far away as that piece, but maybe just a smudge farther. Yeah, okay. Just a little tiny bit farther than that piece, because otherwise our book won't open and close freely. So put that like that. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see that's about maybe 1/4 of an inch apart. Okay, and then I'm going to take my other one. Zoom back out. I'm going to take this one with the matching side facing it. And I'm just going to get that sort of lined up there. And then I'm going to press that down. Okay, and then we're going to fold this top one over, and you just want to sort of press it in, just kind of gently work it into your cover. And you want to get it into the creases there, so just give it a good little rub inside there. And then we're going to do the same with the bottom. I'm just going to rub that in the creases there. Okay, and you want to sort of just gently fold your book open to just teach it how to open. You push those in there like that. Okay. Then we're going to take our third black piece. And this is going to go right over our center. So you can just center that down there somewhere and lay that down. And again, you want to get it into the creases of the cover. And then we're just going to, again, teach our cover how to open. Okay, and then we'll do this side. You just want to help it along there a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to press this on the other side. Okay, and again, we just sort of teach it how to open and close. Okay, so that is the start of our cover, and we'll be right back and we'll do our inside binding. Thanks for watching. Hi everyone, we're back working on our 12 by 12 Disney themed album, pop-up album. So I decided that I am going to put on the pattern paper that I picked out to go over my binding. So I picked this striped paper, and again I had run it through my Xyron like I did the black piece in our last video. And I'm just going to peel the clear film from here. Let's see, got a little snickety here. Okay, so get that off of there like that. And again, these are 6 inches by 12 inches. So what I'm going to do, just going to move my book out of the way for a second. I'm going to peel my first one off. And then we'll peel the second layer off. And again, I'm just going to sort of line this up as straight as I can along my lines here. And then I'm just going to get this sort of lined up with it. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my cover, and I'm just going to, I just want to center this on here like this. And I just get it rubbed into the creases, and then we flip it over. And we're just going to work it the same way we worked the black pieces when we put those in. Just kind of rub it into the creases there. And same with the bottom. Okay. Now I'm going to take my third piece. I'm just going to center it here. Now, you won't necessarily see a lot of this, so don't worry if it's not perfect. It's okay. Oops. Okay. Oops. See if we can get that. All right. It's not perfect, but again, you don't really see this, so it'll be all right. All right. So again, I'm just going to work this into the creases. Like this. Thank you. Okay. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on our piece here. So you're going to have your 1 7/8 piece by 11 1/2. And we're going to have these two little tabs. We're just going to fold them in half on their score line. And I'm going to, let me just go grab my glue. Okay, so for this part, I'm using my Scotch tacky glue. It's a quick dry. And these pieces you will actually cut with your machine. So you'll get these as SVG files, although we haven't really had our pieces so far be that way. All right, so I'm just going to put some glue here, and we're just going to put it as a cap on the top and bottom of our chipboard piece. Like that. I'll glue the other one. So you just want to put it right on the top and bottom of your piece here. Now, my chipboard piece for this is not that thick. I'm not worried about it because the chipboard on my book outside cover is thick, so this doesn't have to be as thick. All right, then you're going to have a piece that has a bunch of score lines in it. And let's see if you can see that. See, there's a lot of score lines in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to just start folding on every score line. So you can just kind of keep folding it over. Go the other way. Again, you just want to keep folding it on every score line. And this is going to be our hinge that holds our pages in our book. So we're just going to get this folded. It doesn't matter which direction to start with. We'll worry about that after. As long as you have it folded on all of them. Okay, so what we want to do is, let's see, I'm going to zoom in here so we can see this a little bit better. Okay, so we're going to fold the first one down. It's a big one, so we're going to fold that away from you. And then we're going to fold the next one away from you also. So it's like two mountain folds, okay? Then what we're going to do is the next one, we're going to sort of, we want to fold it again away from you, but we're going to pinch the two sections together. So we're going to be making like a little hinge. Okay, so let's see if you can sort of see that. Let's see. Try and make it so you can see what it looks like. Okay, so see the little hinges sticking out here. All right, so what we're going to do is you're going to have, so we have the wide section, then a small section, two little bit wider sections, another small section, and then the next two big sections, we're going to, again, make it a little mountain fold. And when you do that, you want to pinch it together. And that will be our second hinge. Okay, so now we have two. Again, you skip the next one and pinch the next two together. Okay, so now we have three. Skip the next one and pinch the next two together. Like this. Pinch this together, and then you end up with 4. So what we're going to do is, now that we have these 4 here, we're going to flip it over. You can kind of see how it looks like there's these little valleys. So we're going to take our score tape. We're just going to put it on one side of each of those valleys. And I'll tell you which number of section, just so that I make it a little bit easier. It's a little hard to see because it's black, but okay, so if we laid this out and we numbered it, so you'd have 1, 2, tape number 3, 4, 5, tape number 6, 7, 8, tape number 9, 10, 11, tape number 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so 1, 2, tape. We're going to take the tape off, and we're going to pinch it. So we have 1, 2, 3, and you're going to pinch 3 to 4. Okay, so you're just going to squeeze that together. Okay, like that. And you can see it makes the little hinge here. Okay, so the next one, again, we skip one, we have the tape. We're going to take that up, and we're going to pinch it to the one that's after it. We're just going to pinch that together like that. Now we're going to take the next one. We're just going to pinch it together. Okay, and then the last one, and we'll take the tape off, and we're going to pinch that together. So now, when you look at it, you can see, let's see, I'm trying to get this in the camera the best way. You can see we have these 4 hinges that are popping out there. Okay, so what we can do is, if you flatten it out, you have 2 that would go to the right and 2 that would go to the left. Okay, then what we're going to do is we're going to actually flip this over. That's why we want to flatten this out. We're going to flip it over. We're going to put some score tape along the very outside edges. Okay, let me get unzoomed here. And then I'm just going to put some score tape along the inside here. It doesn't matter where you put it exactly, because we're also going to be using some brads to hook this in. But this is just to get us sort of started. All right, so we're going to take the tape off of the middle pieces, not the outside yet. Okay, and we're going to take our 1 7/8 piece, and what we want to do is vertically center this as best we can, and horizontally center it. best we can onto our piece. And then just give it a good rub. And then we'll flip it over. We're just going to wrap it around just like a present. Okay. So this is going to be where we hook our pages up to our book. So I'm just trying to see the best way I can show you to see this. So we have 4 hinges here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to actually attach this to the inside of our book. I just need to run and get a couple of brads. Okay, so I have these brads that I got from Staples. You can get them pretty inexpensively. They are about 1 inch wide, and we're going to use them to hold our binding into our book. So I'm going to grab my big bite, and we're going to use that to poke our holes in it, our book, to connect our binding here. So let's see what we're going to do here. We're going to, first we need to put some glue strips on the back of our binding, and that's just going to basically hold it in place onto the binding until we get the brads put in. So I'm just going to use a couple of strips here. Give that a good rub. And what we're going to do is we want to center it inside of the binding here. I'm just going to give it another little fold here so that I can easily see where the binding is going to go. And you're going to center it vertically and horizontally in that binding section the best you can. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, but that's okay. You know, you just do your best. And then we're going to squash it down with 2 of the hinges going on each side. Now I have my big bite set at 3/16 of an inch, and inside underneath, you can't really see it here, but I have it set for 3 inches for the 3/16 mark. So I want my holes to go about 3 inches in on the binding. You can see there where it's got the different markings, and it's set at 3 inches. So what you want to do is you want to center your book binding in between the middle of your hinges, because that's where you want the hole to be, and you're going to have to put some muscle into it when you push this down. Okay, so then the other thing you're going to do is you're going to switch it around, and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, you want it to go in at about 3 inches. Make sure it's centered inside of your binding, and then you just give it a good push. So now you'll have 2 holes, and you're going to want to grab your brads, and you're just going to stick the brads from underneath up into your book, and you want to make sure that the arms, when you spread them, that they go the same way as your hinges go. That way they won't block them. You can just push those down. Okay, so I'm going to grab the second one, and I'm just going to pop it through the hole here. And then again, I'm going to make sure that the arms are going the same way as my hinge. You could, of course, cover these up with some washi tape, excuse me, if you want to, but you don't need to. You won't see them when we're done with our book, but you can do it if you like to. Alright, so now we have our book is ready, and I just wanted to show you that you don't have to worry about everything being perfect, because you won't see everything once we put a page in here. I just wanted to give you a quick view that you see it hides a lot of stuff, so you won't see everything. So don't worry about whether or not your pieces in the middle are perfect or not, because we'll be covering that up. Alright, so there we go. That is our book for right now. Next thing we're going to be working on is our pockets. Okay, for this next section, what we're going to do is we're going to get our pockets ready to put into our book. So what I did was I cut 8 1-inch strips by 12 inches, and what we're going to do is we're going to score them on the 1/2 inch mark. So I just want to show you, this is the 4-inch piece of black paper that was left from when I cut the pieces to do the outside of my hinge or my binding. So you can just cut 2 of those up into 1-inch strips and it will work out and, you know, save you paper. So now that I have these cut, I'm just going to score them down at the 1/2 inch mark. And again, you don't have to worry if these are cut absolutely perfectly. It's okay. You're not going to see them. We're going to be hiding them inside of our pockets. I'm just going to give that a good rub. I did 3 of them offline, so we're just going to be putting 1 together to with each other so that you can see how to do it. You don't need to watch me do all of these. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to need 2 12x12 pieces of paper. You could use any color cardstock you like. I'm going to go with black here. I think it gives a nice outer frame to whatever pages we add to our book. So you're going to fold these in half on the score lines. And what you're going to do is you're going to want to cut the corners off with the fold towards your hand and the corner going away. So we're basically making this so that we can use it to glue our 2 pages together. So I have the fold towards inside of my hand, and I'm just cutting away a corner. We're basically making a glue tab for it. So I'm just going to do that for both pieces on both ends. It doesn't really matter what your angle is. We just want to make it so that we can get it glued inside pretty easily. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our score tape, and I'm going to put the score tape along the bottom of my page here. I'm just going to go as close to the edge as I can. Give that a good little rub so it sticks, and then pull that off. Okay, so we're going to take our first folded piece, and I'm going to have it with the fold facing towards me. And what I want to do is I'm going to just line it up so that the opening is facing the top of the page. And if you start right at the corner, you should be able to line this up pretty nicely. And just get that placed on there. And once you do, you can give it a good little rub, and it'll hold it. I'm going to try putting it on the paper first instead of the actual fold this time. I do it different ways, just kind of depends on whatever you think is easier. Okay, so I want to get these lined up as best I can, so I'm just going to start with the corner, get that right where I need it to be, and then carefully lay down the rest of the page and give that a good rub. Then you can see we have our joint in the middle there. And that's half of our pocket. I have a little nub there, so I'm just going to clip that off with my scissors. Okay, so now we're going to get the second one glued down. And again, I'm going to put the score tape on the paper. And you have to make sure that you have it so that the piece we just added is also showing, because we want these to be hidden inside of our page. Give that a good rub, and then we'll get this on here again. And again, you want the fold to be facing out and the opening to face in towards where you have more paper there. So just start right at the corner. And we'll get that set down. Now for the last one, I am going to put it on our little glue tab here because we're going to just fold over the top and close this up. So this is how it will be a little bit easier to do. So I'm just going to fold this in half carefully. And I want to make sure that I push down my tab as close to the center as possible, get it nice and flat, and then just lay that down and have it stuck. And this is going to make our pocket, and you can see through it. just basically making a tube of paper. Alright, so now that we have that ready, we're going to grab our book and bring it back out. And we want to put our pages in. Normally I don't put the pages in too soon, but because sometimes when I'm making other types of books, I like to stick folds inside, like in here. But because we're putting everything on top for the pop-up book, we're not going to need to do that. So we can go ahead and install these in our book if we want to. Alright, so we have our hinges here. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab our score tape and we're going to put it on both sides of each hinge. And you want to put it towards the center, not too close to the top or too close to the bottom of each hinge, but really sort of as centered as you can. Again, this is not something that has to be done perfectly. You just want to have it close. So we're going to get all 4 of these done real quick. These are going to be the parts that hold our pockets inside of our books. So that's why I'm using this score tape. You could use glue, but you really have to hold it for a while. So if you have a good strong score tape, it really is kind of your best option, I think, for doing this. Okay. I'm just going to give that a good rub on both sides. Make sure that that all sticks really pretty good. And I'm going to start with the last page first. So I'm going to peel off the tape on both sides. Then we're going to take our page and you want to open it up and you want to center it over the hinge. And then you also want to center it vertically along your page so that, you know, it's not too far up to the top or to the bottom. And then you just want to gently give it a squeeze together at the bottom there. And then you can press that down. And that's your first page installed. Okay, so we're going to install the next page. And again, we're just going to pull the tape off. This time when we're doing it, we want to line up our second page with our first page so that they are, you know, one's not higher than the other, that they're basically the same. So I'm going to get that centered over the hinge like we did before. But I want to make sure this time that my pages sort of line up with each other. So I'm just going to nudge that a little and then gently give that a squeeze. And you just want to make sure you don't get the brads involved there. So, all right, we're going to page number 3 or 2, depending on how you're looking at it. Okay, again, we're going to open it up. Get it centered over there. We're going to take a, watch out for our brads. I'm going to move that one a little bit out of the way. And then we're going to give that a good rub. And then for our last page, just the same thing. We're going to unglue this. Get it centered as best we can. A gentle squeeze. You don't want to push it all the way down. You want to just give it a little bit of space. And there we go. So we've got all of our pages. And we're going to be ready now to move on to the fun stuff where we make the pages that we're going to install. Alright, thanks for watching. We'll be back. We're also going to be working on our inserts and all of that fun stuff. So we'll be back.